All right. Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us today for Learning and Growing webinar. Let me quickly turn off my PowerPoint music that is blasting in my ears, and we will go ahead and get started into it today. Again, thank you everyone for joining us today for Learning and Growing webinar, experiential learning opportunities through high impact practices. Our presenter today is Dr. Elena Desjardin of my good friends over at Keene University. My name is Kyle, and I'll be your moderator today for Hawks Learning. We're going to have a live Q&A session after the presentation, so go ahead in your bottom toolbar. You can enter any questions that you might have, and we'll be sure to answer those at the end. But for now, I will hand it over to our presenter.
Thank you so much. Let me get my screen set up here and we'll get started. So I am super excited to be here again. I've presented a few times with Hawks and it's such a wonderful experience. And I really enjoy coming on here and sharing some aspects of the field. So today we're going to discuss experiential learning opportunities through high impact practices. And we'll dive into this topic a little bit during our time together. My name is Dr. Elena Desjardin, and here we go. So today we are going to review certain areas. We'll define what experiential learning is. We'll engage on the topic of the importance of high impact practices. And we'll also discuss a little bit about engagement and retention of our students in higher education, in the world of higher education. We'll discuss and deliver a little bit about service learning internships, talk about research and learning communities, as well as dive into a short discussion on capstone courses, possibly studying abroad, collaborative projects, and e-portfolios. We'll wrap up with a conclusion and a call to action. This is a topic that a lot of individuals often wonder what the word experiential learning is. And so we'll talk about that right now. David Kloeb is a researcher, author, developer. He's really influential in developing this concept on a very macro perspective. Experiential learning is the process that we are acknowledging that knowledge is created through the transformation of experience. And I like to sit for a moment on the word experience because when you think of that, you often wonder how our students are able to transcend what's happening in their classroom out there in the real world. And that's where experiential learning comes in. It's about knowledge infused from a combination of grasping resources and transforming these resources through, in essence, their experiences. And it could be a direct experience, and it also could be a focused reflection as well. So it comes from two different segues. Experiential learning. It's important to discuss because we know our students are dynamic. We know our students are reflective in their own way, but they oftentimes wonder. And when you hear a student wondering what's going on in their classroom and how they can apply this to the real world outside of the four walls, well, this is where the infusement of experiential theory tends to take shape and tends to come in. So it's about that direct composure, but it's also about honing into specific skill sets that would allow and enable the students to get those transferable opportunities. And in essence, they're using what they know in the classroom sector. It could be a brick and mortar, it could be online, it could be hybrid, however, they're being educated. It's about opening up those walls, those doors, and allowing a step into that real world. And that is experiential experience and experiential theory. And it's been studied quite often in the past 5 years or so because of that deep dive engagements that we want our students to be able to take part of. So, as we're learning through reflection, in essence, we're learning by doing. And we want our students to get into the zone retrieve or have the opportunity to be part of a hands-on activity that has a direct reflection of the field that they're going to go into in the future, or if they have an interest in the field in the future. So there's two different wavelengths that we can think about. We want our students to immerse themselves in this process because we know that if they gain some insight about the field that they hopefully will be going in the future or maybe going to go in the future, we're going to allow them the ability to get that implications and possibly gain theoretical information in the classroom and the applied component in the real world sector. So we're opening up our students pathways, those knowledge pathways, to gain those hard skills, but also to gain those soft skills, and together to marriage them two together to build out a really experiential theory component. It's about closing those gaps through leveraging in application and theory in the real world setting and get those practical applications going. And students are very excited about this process, and they're very excited to say, what is next after this right now? Well, they see it, they could see it through experiential theory, and that's wonderful. So it's about that engagement. It's providing them experience, focus, reflection. You'll hear me say those words often because that is really where it's at. Involving our students in the process, getting them that direct experience, but also allowing the students to gain those skill sets and have those transferable skill sets be immersed in the classroom sector. It opens eyes and opportunities for those deep dives, and we're allowing the students to get that cycle effect from learning. So it's an action, it's a reflection, it's a deep dive understanding, and most of all, which I really like as an educator, it's that retention of knowledge, because they're not only seeing the textbook in one dimensional, right? We're making the students come alive in a 3D perspective, and that's where that experiential component comes in or infuses within. So, when we think about the importance of high impact practices, we wonder how we can incorporate experiential components of facilitating this in high impact practices world, and then allowing our students to continue to transcend and move forward. There's a lot going on in our classrooms, as you know, and we like to always ensure that we have engagement and retention. And as an educator, you hear these words often. I know I do. We have to make sure that we are creating high impact practices. We have to make sure that we are infusing engagement opportunities, because this is the investment in the student's learning process. High impact practices means many different things, but for this, we're going to focus on a couple of short different areas: service learning, internships, undergraduate research opportunities. That's always fun. And then we're going to be able to immerse these topics in a broader, macro like perspective where we have that infusement of experiential theory, those real world connectivities, and then we're able to enhance the engagement of our students in the classroom, because we want them to be future subject matter experts. We want them to be able to sit on panels like yourself. We want to give them the tools to be successful. And by doing so, we're also supporting their research. Some students have that wonder and their inquiry base of connecting on a deeper learning perspective, also on this critical thinking skills. And so by doing so, we have the ability to promote active learning in the classroom and also to develop this essential skill set. Now, think of this in a different perspective where we're infusing this active learning in the classroom. And by active learning, as opposed to passive learning, students feel immersed by looking at all these different aspects through a very scientific mindset. And so, using active learning as the forefront to push out these instructional capacities for our students, Students feel secure in the fact that they are immersed into critical thinking. They have the wherewithal to be able to problem solve, and they practice teamwork skills, all things that they would eventually do in the workforce to some degree. So you're not only developing their hard skill set, but also their soft skill set. So it is a wonderful opportunity to help our students grow and gain experience. Higher retention and graduation rates. This is where we want our students to be at. We want them to come back into our classrooms. We want them to be engaged. We want them to have the ability to commit for themselves in terms of their educational goals. And then we want to have this equity component in higher education where we're ensuring that the students make their decisions to stay in our classrooms. And in essence, they see where they can go after graduation. They see the road, the journey. So that gives them hope, that motivates them, and it highlights possible beneficial value in staying in our classroom, graduating, and then leaving the world with degrees that eventually they'll be subject matter experts, maybe sitting at a panel next to you. So some of the summary of high impact practices focus on these areas: skill development, engagement, and retention. So I spoke about the scientific component of critical thinking. This is really important, but I like to layer this in a little bit more with problem solving, interpersonal relation skills, and intrapersonal relation skills. Engagement and retention, sure, that's wonderful and needed, but it's also about those skill developments, because a lot of times, if you're not offering the students a variety of different dimensional perspectives, they're not able to apply what they're learning in the classroom in the real world. So there's a disconnect. And when there's a disconnect, there's a lack of engagement. When there's a lack of engagement, there's a likelihood to deep dive in retention metrics. So everything goes hand in hand here. We need a combination effect, a trifecta, for students to be successful in the classroom. It's not just about teaching them in a lecture or even Socratic method. It's about engagement through applied development. And this is where it's at in terms of high impact practices, leveraging into that experiential component, and also providing students the opportunity and outlets to be successful. Service learning. I'm sure you heard of that word before, so let's bridge it into this conversation. It provides students the ability to have community service hours, to dive into academic coursework in the real world, and it also provides an opportunity for students to gain that reflective component. And that's really important when we think about that experiential, the high impact strategies. We want our students to be immersed, we want them to be engaged, and we want them to continue to be developed in their subject or discipline area. And so by enabling them to be part of this service community, we are giving them the tools to be successful that will offer them a combination of applied, theoretical, and those hands-on perspectives which students tend to enjoy being part of. Service work in the field, it could be community service, it could be externship, internship, anything that gets the balls rolling in terms of here for the promotion of learning and development. This is where it's at. This is where it's at in terms of the integration of civic responsibility, providing students with volunteer projects, getting them immersed in the community-like sector. It could be the university, it could be a cycle out from that, their local community, or the community in a very broader sector. Now, could this be done virtually? Sure. Could this be done face-to-face in a traditional brick and mortar sector? Sure. There's many opportunities now to offer service learning for our students and to have that integration take place. Learning communities. So service communities, and now we're going to talk about these learning communities. They're a group of students that come together to have the collaborative learning effect take place. And that's those key words: collaborative learning, fostering supportive environments enabling students to dive deep into the academic materials, but also having those openness moments for the relativism in that learning experience. We want our students to build a sense of community in their university and community sector, but we also want to have that understanding of support in that research component as well. So, enabling this to take place will not only foster supportive environments, but continued growth. And that's what we want for our students, to enable them to continue to grow, to be sure, confident subject matter experts in the field. Now, when we encourage this interdisciplinary approaches to learning, we also have to understand that it enables, it facilitates, and it connects on a very collaborative approach. It draws in different connections from a variety of different discipline sectors, and it makes this diverse interaction among different fields. And this helps the students understand this cross-disciplinary connection, allowing students to have theoretical components that are applied in different areas to help them be engaged in the real world sector. It's about giving them opportunities for success and also facilitating their knowledge component. That's most important. Now, when we think about capstones, studying abroad, collaborative effect, e-portfolios, these are just some ideas of how we can infuse experiential theory, enable this a high impact effect with our students, and provide them opportunities to continue to grow. And that's where it's at in terms of education right now. We want their experiences to be integrated, to be applied. We want them to have an opportunity to be part of their own learning journey, their own academic journey. So capstone courses or projects are great because it brings things together. It allows them to demonstrate competence in the field and offers them an ability and different vantage points to dive into the material. There's a lot of beneficial value to this. One, it supports research. Two, it allows that real world connectivity, that professional mode to set in. And again, our students will be leaving us soon. We have to set them up in a very high stance to be able to land a job in the field or continue their education. And by doing so, we are giving them the tools for success. These tools for success will help them master the subject area by which they're studying. Collaborative assignments could be group research projects, high ranking, inquiry based collaborative presentations. There are so many different areas that we can use now. And with the infusement of technology and integrated learning management systems, it's easier to do these collaborative projects as it was 10, 15 years ago. Projects that foster development of interprofessional or personal skills. It's really focusing and honing in on those professional successful moments. And that's where we want our students to be. Last but not least, we're talking about e-portfolios. So anything that we're able to build for our students in the classroom that they can take with them beyond you're shut down, your class is closed. Now they're taking their e-portfolio and they're extending it out for graduate school. They're extending it out for job placement. They're extending it out for interviews, right? This is what we want. We want to enable students to build a strong portfolio in your classrooms, if applicable, and then allow them to have this authentic representation of their skills and knowledge components. And it is great. And it allows students to have that crossover effect. So let's wrap this up. And I know there's a lot of conversation here, and I think that there's so much to dive deeper into this. Having the ability to talk in experiential theory is wonderful. Having the ability to have these deep dive moments on how we can use high impact practices. The acronym of that is HIPS, enhance learning by providing that real world experience. That's critical. Now, how do we foster this in our classrooms? How do we enable this to come to light? Well, we give them opportunities, our students, to have those critical scientific inquiry based moments to come alive. And we are offering them the ability to engage in future career success by those high ranking thinking moments, those problem solving moments, and that teamwork. So it's not only about those hard skills, theoretical components in the classroom, it's about the application of knowledge in the real world sector to be able to infuse the knowledge components and have that carry over effect. That's where you see growth with our students. So, some call for action are to continue to encourage your students to have the engagement of participation in your classroom. Continue to have faculty and staff members that have professional development and programs and programs and coursework that are able to change this development and allow for more of an infusement of knowledge to take place. Having additional sharing outcomes for our students to be successful and actually share in their moments is really critical. And last but not least, having collaborative community partners. This is important because this will provide the diversity and meaningfulness in the experiential learning opportunity process. So, thank you so much. I know this was a lot of information in a short period of time, but I thank you for being here and allowing me to present for you. I'm going to turn this back over to our moderator, and I'm going to stop sharing. Thank you.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Dr. Desjardins. That was fantastic.
Thank you.
So what we're going to do now is we're going to start by opening it up to the Q&A. And just a reminder to anyone that's still hanging around here for the question and answer portion of the webinar here, please go ahead and post any questions you have in the toolbar. There should be a Q&A feature that you can submit your questions to, and then I will go ahead and start with the first one we have here from Gary. What do you think of simulations in adding to experiential learning?
Great. I think that's a wonderful question. Simulations, what first comes to mind is gamification. And so simulations, gamification, it's really about modernizing our workflow in our classrooms to address our students in the 2024. So we offer gamification. We offer infusement of knowledge components that are diversified and rich, that tap into this technology component. Simulations is really wonderful. And it could be something as simple as creating a mock case study, right? And then infusing some technology into that. Or bringing a vetted person into the classroom that is already in the workforce, in the work field. And that works out great too, because we're able to transcend and have that reflective component. Great question. Thank you so much.
Awesome. So the next question we have for you is from Mark. We've been using learning communities at my college with varying degrees of success. In your opinion, what are the one or two most critical aspects of successful, meaningful learning communities?
Oh, wonderful question. I think it's all about awareness, and I think that's like my answer right now. If the students are not aware of the potential of growth by being part of a learning community, then they're not going to feel engaged, and they're not obviously going to have the ability to reflect in that. So it's about bringing the awareness inside of the classroom and seeing, in essence, a call for action in your own classroom. We speak about call for actions macroly, in a very macro perspective, like I just did. But what really does that mean unless we have that infusement in your own classroom? So make a call for action for yourself and say, hey, this is what we can do. These are the results. These are the fruits of our labor, because with this, you have the propensity to grow, and you can grow at your own rate. And that's where it's about. It's about growing and gaining from this experience. Wonderful question. Thank you so much.
Awesome. Thanks, Mark. Rubina, this is not a question here, but she wanted to mention that such a clear and logical layout and totally inspiring. So thank you.
Thank you so much. This was great. Hawks is a wonderful place to present on. And Kyle and I, we've been working together for, I don't know, a couple about years now, right, Kyle?
A little
Yeah.
bit, yeah.
Goes by so fast. Yeah, the questions are great. And it's all about that reflective component. And you have to think about those transferable skill sets too, because it's not only about that one-dimensional textbook, it's about making that textbook come alive.
Right.
And in order to do that, you have to infuse in HIP, high impact practices, experiential theory, and to put that light bulb on for students to grow. And that's really where it's at.
Mm-hmm. Our next question is from Jacqueline. When designing an experiential course, what are potential problem areas?
Okay, having too much to work with, that's really where I always see that it's very hard to pick and choose because it's all wonderful. It's very hard to be able to say, hey, we only have 8 weeks, or we only have 10 weeks or 16 weeks, whatever your class is set up. What is the priority system? And I always struggle with that because I feel like everything is important. But it's about ranking and understanding what your students need in your own classroom and prioritizing that in maybe a top 3 or a top 4. The selectivity in that I struggle with because I know it's important to make those connections with our students in the real world sector, but what ranks the most important for you as their educator, and flip it backward, what ranks the most important for the student? So maybe put out some kind of survey with them or some kind of poll of what they foresee may be a work in progress. And from there, strategize outward. That's what I would do. And that's what I do in my classrooms.
Excellent answer. Our next question is from Barbara. Can you apply this call to action to elementary and middle school students?
Yeah, absolutely. So I was a director of research for a school district here in New Jersey. And I think it's really important that we apply this in K to 12, in higher education, and outward too into doctoral programs. So we do a lot of community service in a K to 12 sector locally. And so they have hours that they have to master each year or each 4 years if it's high school. And basically, they're getting themselves inside of the community, finding their interest points, how they can immerse themselves being part of their community sector, and then delivering that outward as a portfolio project. Portfolios in higher education are wonderful because they take that, these students, and they go sit in a job interview. But you may wonder, how do you do this in K to 12? Well, those portfolios could help those students get into a high school that they want to, or start the process for the college. So portfolios, yes. Community sector, yes. And gaining skill-based hours, yes. And these are virtual options too. Students can definitely, fast forward this into a virtual option as well. Thank you so much. I know we're pressed for time, but that question was great too.
Absolutely. Our next one from Ashley. When you only have 2 weeks for a short-term study abroad, which HIPs have shown most impactful in the short term?
Portfolios, for sure. I am a portfolio person, and actually vetting this process as well. So not only are you building portfolios, but make that extension of someone that was successful doing that process or that product, and you see the growth in that own right. I like portfolios because it's something that can continue to grow with the student. So if they're going abroad and then they're coming back to, here, um, the next semester or the semester after, they can key turn, right? So that's really important. They're key turning their event. They're making that a learning process just alone. But having the ability to key turn, share their concepts and ideas, and having that carryover effect allows that reflective component to take shape, soft skill development.
Awesome. Awesome. And then Amit did have a question regarding Hawks Learning offering webinars on content-based topics, just because it would also be helpful to see, how your topics integrate with future professional developments and, for college instructors. So just want to let you know, Amit, that I am going to post quickly here a link here to view all of our webinars that we do offer. We have a variety of different topics. So I know that Dr. Desjardin does a lot of our topics as well too. So you can find on there any upcoming webinars that she will be hosting, as well as Hawks, outside of Keene University here. But That is looking like it is the last question here, Dr.
Awesome.
Desjardins.
Thank
So
you so much. Always a pleasure, Kyle. You are wonderful. And I enjoy coming on here, obviously. And thank you so much for all of the wonderful questions.
absolutely, absolutely. And so for everyone that is still hanging around here, it looks like that's all we're going to have time for today. So again, thank you, Dr. Desjardins, and you all for attending today. I'll be emailing a link to you guys to view the recording of the webinar once it becomes available. So be patient, that'll be coming out soon. But if you or any of your fellow instructors are interested in presenting for our Learning and Growing webinar series, then I'm going to quickly post into the chat here for everyone. It is going to be the first website is that Learning and Growing website available to find all of those webinars that we have available upcoming, as well as your ability to submit a webinar to possibly be selected to take part in presenting in some of these. And if, of course, if you have any questions at all, then you can direct those to our marketing at hawkslearning.com, and we can certainly handle it from there. But just as a quick reminder before we sign off today, that these free webinars are brought to you by Hawks Learning, an innovative educational courseware company. To learn more about our mastery-based course materials and how Hawks can enhance learning outcomes for you and your students, you can visit www.hawkslearning.com. Hope everyone has a great rest of your day. And again, thank you all so much for attending today's webinar.